regulation in place. And it's really good. Great job on the recording there, Alex. That's a good job.
It's what I do, man.
We finally have some of these scenarios where the MSP is finally regulated, and it's the clients that are regulated. I use the example. My MSP was here in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin market. I was in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I sold it back in 2015. I had multiple car dealerships. Beating these guys over the head was a very challenging battle because none of these prospects or clients that you guys have ever dealt with as MSPs have ever been told by anyone, you have to budget for this, you have to do this. If you don't do this, you're going to have problems, or you're going to have regulatory problems, or you're going to not have compliance. And then we have, let's just take car dealerships for an example. We're now also battling against companies like Comply Auto, which you guys may have heard some of these guys that are saying, hey, well, for $9 a seat, we'll get you compliant. But they don't talk at all about what happens when a breach actually happens. What happens when money is missing? What happens when you have to face the music? And yeah, maybe you were compliant, but you're missing $250,000 in cash, and now your insurance company won't pay because you had no regulations in place.
And when you have a breach, Comply Auto just disappears.
Like
they don't answer. They're not going to answer the phone. Yeah,
they're there to check a compliance checkbox. So I'm gonna start with that, and then I'm gonna let Cindy take over. We'll chime in a little bit. And I apologize for it's not me presenting, but Cindy's actually a way better presenter. Cindy is our head sales trainer at Seven Figure MSP, way better presenter than me, way better than everything in me, actually. So I'm going to let Cindy, I'll let you share your screen, and then we'll kind of go back and forth on some things. And if we have some questions, please raise your hand. We're all on, Zoom. So, you're welcome to do this, or you're welcome to put your Zoom hand up and we'll talk with you guys. But Cindy, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, great. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is you guys are going to give me a little feedback, because we're going to make sure that you're looking at my slides, right?
Seven Figure MSP Sales Workshop is what we do.
Okay, well, I got to tell you guys, Chris sent me 2 monitors. So now I have 3 monitors. And the truth is I have a one-screen brain. So it's like making sure the slides are up is like a big win for me. So what I want to do is walk you through why the FTC safeguards rule is an amazing way to open a conversation with a client or with a prospect, either way. Okay. So you guys with me on that? That sound like a good thing? You need a new way to start a conversation with people who you might want to do business with. So here's what we're going to do. A little bit about us. You know that Chris has a program. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but we do have a team. It's getting bigger all the time. Chris, one of the things I'm still very proud of is that we were on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list. And we wouldn't be there except for the dear people who've allowed us to help accelerate the growth of their business. And I get up every day just jazzed to be helping people make their dreams come true. And that's really what it's all about. So I'm going to assume you're here because you want to grow and you're looking for a way to make it happen and make it happen quickly. So our agenda for today is number 1, I'm going to show you how to use the FTC safeguards as a hook to fill your sales funnel with qualified leads. So do me a favor. If you've got a sales funnel right now, if you've got a marketing funnel going, hit me up in the chat. I've got a funnel. Do you have a marketing funnel? Are you guys doing stuff where you have a marketing funnel? I need to know if you have a funnel. Jason's got one. Way to go, Jason. Who else has a marketing funnel? Tim Golden. Good to see you, buddy. Tim has got a funnel. Adam's got a funnel. Okay, so I get 3 yeses. I'm off to town. Dave Standy. Good to see you, my friend. He's got a funnel. All right, great. We want to talk about how to fill that funnel up. The second thing I want to hit today, and I want to hit it really hard, is why all roads lead to a cybersecurity risk assessment. I want to share with you what we do with cybersecurity risk assessments and how they bring you more MRR. And we got a saying, we call it run the play or go away, right? Run the play or go away. We do the same thing every time because it gives us a system and it brings us results. And a big part of that system is how we're able to execute quickly because of our relationship with Lifecycle Insights. So I want to talk a little bit about that as well. Alex may have some guidance he wants to throw in at that point. But the whole idea here is that I'm going to show you how to get the conversation going, how to keep it going. And then when you get to the point in time where you want to execute, let's execute with the best. Let's execute with Lifecycle Insights. And then finally, because I expect you to how can I put this? I expect you to be highly skeptical because, hey, after all, we're kind of engineering oriented people. So I want to show you, I want to walk the talk. I want to show you some of the results from some of our clients, certainly not all of them, but I'm going to give you a snapshot into what people are doing. And before I start, I'll just tell you why I have so much fun doing what I'm doing. Every night, Carl and I watch TV. Carl's my cute little husband. We watch TV and I sit with my tablet, like I'm sure many of you do, and I scroll through stuff, right? Well, I scroll through our Inner Circle Elite. And my favorite thing to do is every time I see a win posted, I post this little boom GIF, right? Boom, boom. It just really makes me happy. And I'm going to show you those when we go through walking the talk. You'll see some of the booms that we've got going on. So here's our sales playbook at a glance. It's a 4-step process. It starts with a first-time appointment. Then we go to a discovery call. Then we execute a fixed price consulting engagement, right? And we call that fixed price consulting engagement a cybersecurity risk assessment. Now, I'll be very specific with you. We sell cybersecurity risk assessments for a fee every time to anyone who's a prospect that has not given us money before, anyone that we don't hold admin access to their systems. And for those of you that want to know what we sell it for, we recommend $1,500 for a 10-person company, add $150 for every person over that. Okay. We have an ongoing debate between Chris and myself as to whether or not we're selling that thing too cheap, but we're consistently selling it for that price. And we've got people selling it for more than that.
And note, they're also selling it in the United States. They're selling it in Canada. They're selling it in the UK. They're selling this in Australia. So right now you're potentially saying to yourself, I can't make this work here in my market. You can make it work in any market. It's all about positioning.
Right. And we make it work in towns with 20,000 people that are 90 minutes south of Perth, Australia, all the way across, basically all the way across the globe. So when we have a first-time appointment, there's a system to it. So let me just share what the system is so you know. That's a 15-minute call, not a 20-minute call, not a 30-minute call. It's 15 minutes. I like to call it the coffee date. You go, you find out whether or not you're dealing with someone that you can see yourself working with. It is a qualification call for you to qualify whether or not the business owner you're meeting with is someone that you want to go further with. So we don't fall in love at the coffee date, okay? After the coffee date, we then have a discovery call. That's step 2. The discovery call is a 45-minute discussion. At the end of that 45-minute discussion, you are going to make a decision about what you want, not what the client wants, what you want. Is this someone you want to go to the next step with? And based on what you have learned in the 45 minutes and in the 15 minutes you did the first time appointment, based on what you have learned from them, what do you want to do? Now, what we recommend is that you realize that every client you take on is a real and material risk to your business. Gone are the days of, hey, let's be friends. I'll kind of do your IT on the side. Can't do that anymore. So you've got to make a choice as to whether or not you want to move forward. And our recommendation to all of our clients is move forward based on fact, not feeling. Move forward based on what you know is going on in that business. And how do you know? If you don't get in there and do a comprehensive cybersecurity risk assessment, how would you know? You don't. So we have all of our clients offer a fixed price engagement where you put your best technicians on it. You run a very comprehensive set of activities that involve the executive team, that involve key individual contributors, and you look at the full business and you answer some very key questions about that business, and you reduce their risk to a financial number, and then you ask the client, what do they want to do? How do they want to move forward? And only if they want to move forward do you then pitch your service. Okay, so it's a very different sales model because we're actually thoughtfully engaging with them to build a shared bond of competence. How many of you have clients you can't stand that don't respect what you do? You don't have to tell me in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
Because I
raised my hand.
Are you
Because
talking about us? Is that what you're
I
doing?
know you've got some, right? We've all got some.
None of them that are here.
Yeah, right, exactly. None of them that are here that will confess to, right? So anyway, so the thing is this, when you have this kind of sales process, you've got to start the pipe. You got to start filling the pipe up somehow, right? So the sales process that I just shared with you doesn't tell you how to get the ball rolling, how to get the play started. So how are we going to get the play started? We've got to start with step one, which is finding that hook. Okay. You got to find the hook to fill your funnel with qualified buyers. And hooks are external market forces. That's all there is to it. It's an external market force. For those of us that have been around the block more than once or twice, I'll confess that there are many times I tried to create a hook out of thin air and it doesn't work. That's when you end up spending time doing this thing called educating the market. I am not a fan of educating the market. I'm a fan of responding to market demand. And what we're seeing in the market today is huge ass-kicking market demand because the hook today is the FTC safeguards rule. So, so Alex, you know what I did today before this call? I called up my accountant and I said to my accountant, hey, what do you know about FTC safeguards, right? Now, granted, I'm calling, is it almost April 15th? Like it's almost D-Day, right?
That's tomorrow, yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I think Tuesday's tax day.
yeah,
Tuesday's
so the
tax
only
day, yeah.
reason I got the person on the phone is because, baby, I'm the person who files on the 24th hour of the very last day, right? Very last person. And I had to get some information to him. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he goes, listen, we're taking this stuff very seriously. Oh, really? We don't want to lose our P10. Your P10? Oh, yeah, if we don't have a WISP, we lose our P10. And I'm like, oh my God, acronyms. Acronyms I don't know anything about. Anybody here know what a P10 is? Yeah, exactly, right? Anybody know what a WISP is? So here's what we
Wireless
got.
internet service provider.
No, yeah,
But I'm not sure what that has to do with this topic.
So here, what we have to do is we have to like paint the picture with reality for these guys, because some of them know it and some of them don't. And I'm going to tell you in just a minute what a WISP and a P10 are. But here's the thing. What happened? What got published yesterday? If you want to go to this goo loader malware thing, let me just stop my share. And let's see. Oh, maybe I don't have to stop my share. Maybe I can come over here and like pop this thing in the chat. But here's the thing. I can pop this thing.
Multiple monitors, Cindy.
Dual monitors. My God, Chris, we're like doing this in real time. So anyway, so here's an article that published yesterday that basically says, hey, guess what? Financial firms are getting their asses handed to them. Okay. And they're after them. Well, this is a big deal. Now, the other thing that's a big deal is that unlike with HIPAA, anybody remember when HIPAA was a deal? The FTC people actually know how to enforce stuff. They actually know how to enforce stuff and they're getting after it. And the reason they're getting after it is because there's money involved. So yeah, it's got big teeth. And so here's the thing where the FTC extended the deadline by 6 months for compliance. All that's doing is giving them more time to get their compliance thing put together. And so there's a lot of good information out there for people that are running businesses that say, hey, let's get this one. What does your business need to know, right? What does your business need to know? And you know what? The stuff that's out there, it's got some teeth in it. It looks like they're actually working. This isn't like when HIPAA came out and there were no rules or guidelines and people had to like figure it out. No, they're like figuring it out. And if you haven't seen the Part 314 code that everybody's got to follow, right there it is. Okay, I just dropped it into the chat. So there's a press release, what your business needs to know, and the requirements you must meet. Now, here's what I love about the requirements you must meet. If you guys will click on that link and you just scroll down a little bit, you know, requirement B says you must have a risk assessment. Holy Toledo, who's going to do that work? Oh, by the way, requirement A is you've got to have a named individual, designate a qualified individual responsible for overseeing and implementing your information security program. That's the first requirement. So they're looking for one throat to choke. And then the second thing they're saying is you got to have a plan. oh my God, right? Well, why is this a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because here's what's going to happen. What's going to happen is when they start to enforce this stuff, you can't renew your e-filing credentials. That's what a P10 is. It's your credentials that allows you to file returns for people. You can't renew those without a written information security plan. So there's
First
an
time I've heard that.
automatic
Is this
way.
the new thing that came out?
Literally,
Well-
literally brand new.
Because
So-
that's the first time I've heard this part of it. Has anybody else heard that before?
So I heard it from talking to an accountant this morning who
Yeah.
told me this is how it works. And this is why they've done it this way. Now, when it was one accountant, right? It's my guy down in Houston that I've been working with for years, but that's what he told me. And so here's the thing. I went off and I started looking at the IRS stuff. And guess what? The IRS people are like coming along and they're saying, you know what? You need to create your written security plan. And here's a document on how to do that. Boom. I just put that in the chat. All right. So let's play devil's advocate. Let's say, oh, really? Is this really going to happen? So here's the reason the IRS and the FTC are like on it like this. It all comes back to how the money is moving out of the legitimate economy. What happens when money moves out of the legitimate economy? Tax revenues go down, baby. So it's to their advantage to keep the money on the legitimate side of the ledger. So how do you do that? You put rules in place and you go to the people who monitor the money. You go to the accountants and you say, you know what? If you don't have a written information security plan, you don't get to renew your P10. That means you can't file. Oh, by the way, if you're sloppy about how you're doing stuff, let's see who you filed taxes for. Do you got any car dealers in your book? Maybe we ought to go see how those people are handling their information security. How many times in your business as a business owner have you done something different because your accountant got up on you and told you you had to do something different, right? I mean, we kind of listen to what the accountants are telling us, don't we? I know I do. I don't know if you guys do, but I do, because man, what's gonna go on? So the enforcement method is like built in. It's built in with the IRS. And so, you know, this is a problem. So then you say, well, what's the FTC doing? Well, look at this. The FTC is putting out documents that tell people how to do a data breach response. Now, I got to tell you, this is a government document that actually reads like something you could read and understand. And what it's missing is it's missing the next level down details. So when you read this thing and you look at it, you're going to see that they've got the structure in place to manage you without telling you what to do. So they're giving you top level requirements and saying, hey, you got to get with this. So let's come back to what this means to you for filling the top of your funnel. What it means is that you can go out and you can have a conversation with your prospects. You can do webinars. You can do things to get out and talk to people. And you can use FTC safeguards as your hook, right? As your hook to get going on this. So I just dropped into a chat one of the deliverables that we use with people in our program to help get them going on doing their FTC safeguards webinar. Now, we've got a substantial number of people running these webinars right now, and they're running them at chambers of commerce. They're talking at BNI meetings. They're going out and they're doing outreach in the community. They're teaming up with accountants and they're talking to people who are in the accountant's book of business, who have to follow rules. It's a thing, okay? It's a hook, right? Have you decided how you're going to implement the new FTC safeguards?
And
Are
one
you
piece of
sure?
feedback that I'm going to have for you guys as well, Cindy, didn't mean to cut you
Go
off
ahead.
there. Realize that your prospect or your existing client, they probably don't even know what the FTC safeguards term means. So please try and take your titles and bring it down to something that they can understand. Here's where regulation is finally coming to you as a accounting firm. You're actually seeing compliance as a car dealership. Like break things down so they understand it. Don't just drop the name. Hey, FTC safeguards are here and they're going to kill you. Something like don't get so blatant that you get in front of them, but please make sure that you break it down to something as basic that they can understand it and focus on what the goal would be. Sell the solution, not necessarily the FTC safeguards itself.
Right. Now, I'm just going to stop the share for a minute and talk about reality, right? So when people come into our program, or let me just maybe make it a little bit more general. When you're running a business, you run it a certain way. So let's just see in the chat, who does cybersecurity risk assessments now? Who does cybersecurity risk assessments now? If you do them now, hit me up with a yes. So we got a bunch of yeses coming in here. Okay, that is fantastic. So my question for you is, how many CSRAs do you do a month? How many do you do a month? How many CSRAs do you do a month? Because where this problem gets a lot more interesting, and it's where we're so grateful for the partnership with Lifecycle Insights, is it gets a lot more interesting when you're doing 3 cybersecurity risk assessments a week, right? You have to say to yourself, how do I take this and scale it, right? How do I scale it? How do I make it really work for me? Because this is a market transition event with the FTC safeguards. There's going to be, when you talk to people about this, there's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of action. So the question becomes, do you have a repeatable system for doing these cybersecurity risk assessments in a manner that allows you to deliver predictable results and do them in a timely manner?
And here's another thing on that, not only a repeatable system, but something that you do not allow to happen without doing that system every single time. And that's a really important thing. You heard Cindy say earlier, all roads lead to your CSRA. How many times do you just take on a client where you're just like, okay, you want your firewall switched out and you switch out the firewall? Mandate that they sign an MSA first, and make sure, side note, make sure that your MSA is super tight. Make sure that your liability is limited. Make sure your liability, I don't think you're going to be able to fully remove liability, but make sure these things are in there so they understand where the risk falls. And you're doing the CSRA to say, look, you have risk, you have all this, you're not going to pass your FTC safeguards. You're not going to pass these things. You may be compliant even if you get to this point, but what happens later? And then all roads lead to a CSRA. And then after that, even if they're break fix, they can't say it's your fault because you didn't tell me. You're letting them know all the risks. And then you're saying, well, we can actually help manage you. All roads also lead to MRR, your managed recurring revenue. Really important.
Exactly. Now the other thing that's really interesting is that when you use a tool like Lifecycle Insights, my question for you guys is this: how many of you have put an assessment template inside the tool? Right?
They probably
Who
all
has-
have a base assessment template, because these guys, the folks who show up for this call, they're going to be our more mature partners who are dialed in on some of this.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So that's what we recommend, right? When you have an assessment template, and Lifecycle Insights is a great tool for that. You put that assessment template in, and then you can, run the same thing over and over again. You can have multiple assessments going at the same time. Everybody knows where it's at, right? You know where you are with each client. We recommend that people collect data for 20 to 30 days on their assessments, so you get enough of a compelling picture about what the behaviors are in the company that you're working with, right? But you do that with Lifecycle Insights, and that helps you have a repeatable system, right? So let's go back to the FTC safeguards thing for just a minute, and let's talk about it as a hook. The whole idea about having a hook is that hook allows you to grab the attention of the people that you're working with. How many of you think it would have been impossible to get an accountant on the phone in the last 60 days about the FTC safeguards? Everybody thinks it's impossible because they were in the middle of tax season. We had people closing deals with accountants during tax season because of the way they were going about the conversation with the FTC safeguards. And the reason was this: the safeguards are going to be turned on, like the rule and the enforcement is going to be turned on. I think it's June 9th. And so the question becomes, are you going to be ready on June 9th? Because if you wait until the last minute to try to get your information security plan and your IT controls in place, you risk not having a service provider available to do that work for you. If you wait too late to start the work, you might not find anybody to do it for you. How many times have we gone out to eat dinner in a restaurant lately, right? And you can't get a table because they don't have enough people to bring the food out, or they don't have enough chefs in the kitchen to even cook the food. You know, that same kind of problem is going on everywhere in our supply chain, including in your businesses. And I think it's fair to let clients know that capacity is not infinite. And that if we want to take action, we got to be planful about this stuff, right? So there you go. And Tim's right. Anybody that's doing financing falls under this stuff. It's not just accountants. What we like about talking to accountants first is that accountants fundamentally understand risk. There are a lot of accountants out there that have been shoving the risk in their business onto your back by design for many, many years. And when you go in and have the conversation with them and help them understand that the risk is on them, their behavior changes. And that's really the big part. And Brian's
Are your partners having as good a success with the auto dealers who are having this kind of forced on them from the manufacturers? Because that's the other statement that we hear, is that auto dealers are all of a sudden way more open to having a serious conversation and taking technology seriously than they ever used to.
They are. And here, there are two kinds of auto dealers: the guys who are just looking to check a box, and the guys who realize that business is fundamentally changing. And so what you have to do with the people who are just checking a box, I'll be very frank, you have to call them on their box checking behavior. So what you have to do in the sales process is you're going to get to a point where they're going to raise an objection. And typically the objection is around price.
Mhm.
And at that point, it's time to like come right at them, because you can go right at a car dealer guy. Okay. And what you do when you go right back at a car dealer guy is you just look them square in the eye and you say, is price the number one criteria for your decision? And you know they're going to tell you yes, right? You know they're going to tell you that. And that's when you just look at them and say, you don't qualify to be my client.
And Alex, part of this too is making sure that you have a consistent sales process. Like, so much of what we do in our program is mandating that and pushing those things, because the biggest issue that the MSP industry has had is your only objection handle is, okay, I'll reduce the price. Now it's, my stack is my stack. I'm forcing everybody to do a CSRA. We're going to go down this path. And hey, if you choose Comply Auto over us at $9 a seat, that's fine. But here's what's going to happen when you get a breach. And nobody can. So it's having that conversation, not being scared of that, knowing how to handle these objections. And if you guys think about this, this is where sales process and sales training and learning how to objection handle comes into play, because the objection handling is 95% of it. Having that conversation, and there's nobody that's better at objection handling than the car dealership. So you're actually flipping it back on them and doing the same stuff that they're already doing. But you have to understand that there's going to be some people that are going to go for the price is cheaper checkbox, for sure.
Yeah.
But they have to understand what's going to happen when they get a breach. And it's not just your FTC safeguards issues. Okay, maybe you're compliant, but what are the hackers actually after? And can any of them prevent that? And like I think, Alex, you said, when shit hits the fan, Comply Auto's gone. They care about compliance only, not remediation. Because
at $9 a seat, they can't even have the tools in place to do log retention for discovery for
exactly. And if you think about the pieces of NIST and the pieces of CIS8, it's, there's like the 5 core, I think it's 5 core points. most of that is detection, response, and remediate, right? It's not just the identify thing. It's not just to make sure you're compliant. It's what are we going to do when we have a bad day?
Yeah.
So we have to make sure on the front side, all of you guys that are sitting here on the front side, you are having those conversations. That's fine. They can check your compliance checkbox. But what happens when you get a breach? Oh, we don't have anything hackers want. You have no money? Because now
You have no
during the
customer
CSRA
data. Yeah.
Oh, and the money is really what trips their trigger, honestly. And you think about, and I want to pose this question to all you guys. During your previous conversations with any of these types of clients, were you asking them about their annual revenue, their monthly revenue? How much money is running through this business? MSPs traditionally have never had those conversations. I know, because I was one of them. We never had those conversations. Now, mandated that you're having those conversations, because you know what matters? The insurance company is going to come back and say, you need to have those conversations, period.
Yeah. So the dealerships that tell you everything's in the cloud, that's great. We close more deals with people who say they've got everything in the cloud and they don't have any problems. And the way we do it, to be quite frank, is we run SaaS alerts and we show them where people are trying to get into their applications from geographic locations where they have no people. And that just absolutely makes people take action.
Well, and they have to understand that just by forklifting it into the cloud, they haven't gotten rid of their liability or their obligation. If that cloud vendor gets breached and they've done no diligence to make sure that the cloud vendor was actually following those best practices, the same best practices that apply to them, then they're still
or more importantly, when they leave the workstations just sitting there and you got running dummy sales employees across your entire network, which we've all been in car dealerships and we talk to the type of people that they are. They're surfing the web. I was just in, this is not a car dealership, but I actually hurt my Achilles. I was in a physical therapy place, was talking to the owner about this and was talking about all her staff and all the PCs they have. She's like, well, they do they do whatever they want on the PCs. So their entire EMR is in the cloud. Same scenario, right? But they allow the employees to do whatever they want on their personal email, which is how many clicks away are you from a breach in that scenario? One click.
Oh, yeah. One click.
One. So they have to understand all that. Your job now is to put that in front of those decision makers through the CSRA and say, here's how this is what's gonna happen. And if it comes back to you, it's all I'm saying, guys, it's not on me. I'm presenting you all your risk. Here it is.
What do you want to do?
CSRA. Here's all your risk. What do you want to do about it?
Yeah. So let me ask you guys, what are you charging right now for your CSRAs? For people that are on the call here that are going out and doing cybersecurity risk assessments, what are you charging your clients for those cybersecurity risk assessments? Tim's charging $1,500 to $1,800. That's cool. What else? What are other people charging? We got $1,250.
Chrissy's charging 10
clients,
grand. She's got a
2,500.
super mature process. They're a dialed in MSP. They're doing good work over there. So
Excellent, excellent. Well, when we come on calls like this, we don't always know who we're going to be talking to or how much of a particular thing, folks may be doing.
And what we see most of the time, Cindy, is they're giving away a free network assessment. That's probably 98% of the market is they're giving away a free network assessment.
So what I wanted to do is just show you guys how we walk the talk. So you'll know that I'm just not up here telling you a story that's not true. Yesterday, Damon Watford signed a $3,900 CSRA with 13 office users, 13 email only supervisors. So he's pretty pumped. Niles Benshauser, he signed an MSA for an attorney client and upgraded them from $1,000 a month to $5,150 on a 3-year deal with 11 seats, full stack with hoisted VoIP. Brian Lenning got a verbal commitment for a 3-user CSRA for $1,200. And what you're seeing there with that 3-user CSRA for $1,200, we coach all of our guys to have a minimum deal size. I like to call it your get out of bed number. I won't get out of bed for less than this much money, so that every time you do a deal, you're making enough money that it's worth your time. Liam Benson is in Australia. He did a CSRA for a 25-seat community organization for $3,000. He was super pumped about that. Dan DeFay signed a CSRA for a medical lab, and he did that today. 20 users for $2,500. So he's on it. Derek Ogden down in Florida had a 5,200 CSRA that started back in November that turned out to be 10K a month as he worked through the process and signed them up for service. And yes, we are doing the assessments through Lifecycle Insights. We're also using some other tools. So if you want to know specifically what's in our tool set that we're using, we like to tell everybody we're tool agnostic, although we do have a special place in our heart for Lifecycle Insights. But, you know, start with Lifecycle Insights to walk you through the questions, then go to something like Nodeware Cyber CNS for the network scan, Actifile for the data scan, Breach Secure Now for the dark web and for the phishing exercise, SaaS alerts for the cloud-based stuff. Chris, am I leaving anything out?
That's pretty good. We definitely, we also have an insurance readiness assessment with Talivi.
Oh yeah, that's a cool one.
There's Shadow IT with who is that? Augment. We're adding new ones all the time, but somebody had mentioned Galactic Scan earlier. Galactic Scan is a great tool. Just be careful with the mirage of quick, free, and easy, or quick, cheap, and easy is probably the right scenario. Because while they give you it's a great tool, and in fact, the guys at Talivi have a hacker, a white hat hacker on staff. He calls it a extremely light pen test. That's what he calls it, which I don't disagree with. It's a great product, nothing bad about it, but it shouldn't be the only thing you're using. You should stack on top of that with some of these other tools as well.
So the way we look at the CSRA is the CSRA helps you qualify a client. So I want to be very clear about that. It's not until you complete the CSRA that you actually make the decision about whether or not this company is right for you. And you're going to have enough information when you go through the CSRA process to know how you should bid the job and what should be included in your scope. So although you may have the same stack in every business, there may be pieces that have to be different for each company. And you wouldn't know that if you didn't do a cybersecurity risk assessment upfront to find out what you need to prescribe for their company. Now I want to walk the talk a little bit and show you what happens on an MRR side when you use this kind of process like a machine over and over again. So Greg Bledsoe Jr., they had a 3-year contract, 20 users, nearly a $70,000 onboarding fee and $5,800 a month on MRR. They had another one that they 3 locations, 100 users, $100,000 onboarding fee, $25K in MRR. Here's another one from Australia. This is Rube Syed, $5,600 a month, $351 per user, 16 users, 60 months. I want to put some emphasis on that. We're doing a lot of 5-year deals. 5-year deals have a lot of value to your business. Here's another one. Baron Brethid, he signed his first no. When we go through our process, we ask you to go out and work with clients that you're sure are going to tell you no, just so you can get used to handling rejection and handling objections. And they converted. And it was a 13-seat co-managed opportunity for $2,752 a month for 36 months with a $1,500 onboarding fee. So running the play is working across the board. Justin Colantonio is in Philadelphia. He waited a while before he went after his biggest account. He called him his whale. And he finally pushed him over, and it's going to push him over some big time milestones in their business. So this play works whether you're going after big accounts or little ones. Nick Stevens is another example of a really huge win. He upgraded a break-fix client to co-managed with a full security stack, 278 users for nearly $62,000 a month. There's a lot of blue ocean out there in businesses between 100 and 500 end users that are looking for a co-managed partner to bring a comprehensive security stack. Derek Ogden had another smaller deal, 16 seats, HIPAA, 10K a month, 27K up front. And again, this is another 60-month deal. Casey Tomasak had a client that he didn't think was going to push through, and it went from 2,600 to 3,800 a month. So these are the kinds of things that are happening in our community. They're the kinds of things that are happening in the market today. And one of the things that Chris and I are always really, really clear about is this kind of stuff happens. This kind of stuff happens when you have a sales process. So if you do what you always did, you're going to get what you always got. If you're open to making some adjustments to whatever your sales process is, you can radically change your outcomes. And some of the things that we do in our sales process might look like they shouldn't matter. Why does it matter that the first time appointment's only 15 minutes? Why does it matter that the discovery call is only 45 minutes? Why do I have to have a 4-fee engagement, 4-fee fixed price engagement that takes about 30 days to execute? Why do these steps give me more MRR? And really, it comes down to this. When you have this kind of defined sales process, you give the business owner that you're dealing with an opportunity to recognize how competent you are, and you give them an opportunity to develop some basic desire that they want to do business with you and that nobody else will do. So if you take anything away from today's call, I know you're here to hear about the FTC safeguards. Hopefully we've helped illustrate that stuff is a market moving trend for you. Jump on it.
I
Fill
feel
the
like I need to
front
go
cap
call my
and
accountant
funnel.
now.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Go
that's
call your-
that's a legit response that you
Right.
should.
I think I'll wait till Tuesday, but I think, one of the things I want to add is that there is a mentality that just comes with dealing with salespeople. How many of you guys have been like, it's okay to waste a sales guy's time? That's what he gets paid for, right? And that's what your client thinks about you when you go in as a salesperson. And when you go in and require that they spend money for your time, it establishes you as someone of value who's worth doing business with. And it puts your best foot forward, but forces your customer to respect your time and really engage with you during that sales pitch period, instead of just sit back and wait and kind of play one sales guy against another. It just changes the entire relationship, the entire engagement.
So I just want to close with two messages. One is this: there's nothing we've talked about here today that you need our help to do. But if you want to move faster and you want some accelerant, you want to pour some gasoline on your fire, that's what we do. We'll hold you accountable and we'll help you be the best that you can be. And so, here's a link. I'll put it into the chat.
Actually
here.
a wrong link, Cindy. It's sevenfigureMSP.link. .link.
Oh, do I have it wrong?
Yeah.
My goodness. Okay, 7-figure MSP
.link.
.link.
.link. Yeah.
Got it.
But
.com.
I'll encourage you guys also, if a couple quick things from me on that. Number one, follow the process. Whatever process you have, follow it. Stick to it. Sell your CSRAs. And I love some of the conversation that's going on in the chat here about believing that you're professionals, because so many MSPs historically have allowed the client to dictate the path of service. We're so desperate for deals. We're letting the client tell us what to do. Put a line in the sand and say, look, here's what it is. We have FTC safeguards to back us. And FTC safeguards is only one piece of it. That's just one small thing that applies to, and all you have to do, guys, just Google it and look at some of the different scenarios with it. But pretty much anybody that does cash, non-banking cash finance or cash transactions, if you process credit cards, you're technically bound by FTC safeguards. That's a really important thing to think of. So pretty much everybody that's out there, but pick and choose who you're going to go after and focus on it and have an actual sales process. And our suggestion, all roads start with an FTA, lead to your CSRA, lead to all MRR. It's really important concepts. And Cindy,
And the last thing,
go ahead.
Yeah, the last thing, if you want to come to Nashville and hang out with Alex and the crew, Chris Voss is going to be there to teach you how to negotiate and never split the difference. He's
And like Alex
doing
said in the chat,
he's
LC
doing
at code
a
LCI.
workshop. This isn't a keynote, guys. This is a workshop, right? A workshop. So, Chris, I think we're all pretty thrilled about that.
Yeah, that'll be a cool one.
Yeah, really excited
That'd
about
be a
that.
cool
for
one.
sure.
I've been to, I think, 10 or 11 of these events now, and I'll say, you know, they're an education every single time. I mean, we've had folks like the former White House CISO Chris Krebs. You know, we've had some pretty amazing speakers, some pretty cool content, back and forth between sales and marketing and execution. We've done a lot of really cool exercises that open people's eyes. So they're always a good event, always a good time. I want to circle back to something Cindy said earlier. You mentioned 5-year contracts. How many of you guys sign a new contract with your existing clients at a QBR if you're changing their pricing plan, or you've exposed something new and adding cybersecurity products and things like that? Do you renew their whole contract, or do you just let them auto co-terminate with the 6 months or a year that they've got left?
So many MSPs that I see, Alex, I'll tell you, wait for the term to expire,
And then go running in and
then
begging.
they start to
Right.
try and figure stuff out. And
I'm gonna tell you guys the trick of when I sold my MSP. Every time somebody wanted, you know, we added a new cybersecurity product, we made a big change, we made any significant change to their agreement, we re-signed them. And our schools were all on 5-year agreements because those play nicely with E-rate. And let me tell you, when I sold my MSP, and it was not planned, it just kind of happened, my valuation was significantly better for those 5-year contracts. And you know, my schools were all 4.5 years into their, or a half a year into a 5-year contract. They had 4.5 years left. And that is so much value to someone who's acquiring your organization, because they get the chance to come in, stabilize things, make friends, get everything right before there's chance of that client.
Yep.
You know,
we actually called that, Alex, in my MSP, we called that Forever Fresh. When I sold, you and I've never had this conversation, and I will tell you, when I sold my MSP, the shortest we had left was 25 months.
Wow.
Because same thing, we were always constantly renewing, constantly adding on, and we also never co-termed. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of co-term, but what a lot of MSPs do, sign the initial deal, let's say it's 10 seats or whatever, and then 6 months down the line, they're like, oh, I want to add 4 new people. Okay, well, they want a co-term. They want to put them onto that same, nope, brand new deal every time. And then by the time, as you're doing your QBRs, come around to 3 months, come around to 6 months, they're like, oh, and this gave our sales team a way to say, oh, hey, you got this initial agreement out here. We got 2 other agreements out here. Let's now put everything back on one and sign a new 36-month or a new 48-month or a new 60-month. So we called that concept internally Forever.
I like it. I like that a lot. Then, and you know, we would do it, we'd roll out a Datto BDR, and it's like all of a sudden I have a 3-year commitment with Datto on a customer who's going to be who could only be with me for 18 months. Well, that's bullshit.
Yep.
So when we're rolling a product like that, we're renewing the agreement to make sure that those folks are. So aside from all the stuff that we talked about today on FTC safeguards, which I thought was super cool, Cindy brought up the point of 5-year contracts, and I just thought it made sense to mention that, because your QBR is the right time.
100%. And Brian Weiss, I will tell you, it worked for us really well. Now you have to be very purposeful about it, and you don't always force it on them, but you use your QBRs, you go back in quarterly and say, oh, we did this, you know, we added 2 new agreements in the last quarter. Let's now co-term them, get everybody in the same thing, but let's make sure it's a new 36-month from here out. And that's where the wins come in on that. Worked really well.
Yep. Especially if there's a big ad, like they add a new building,
100%.
hire 5 new people, something like that. Those are opportunities. But yeah, use that opportunity when you're in front of your customer to make sure that they're your customer for a long time. Hopefully next week we'll have some conversations from our new ScalePad friends. They have a really cool product that I'm super excited about. We touched on it last week, but I want them to come talk just about this product and give us some info. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get them here for this next week, but I'm hoping we can talk about their IT asset disposal program next week, because they're planting a tree for every computer that you retire through their IT asset disposal product. And they're giving you a way to make money, taking old equipment away from you, not having to pile it up in the corner. So I think it's a pretty cool product. And hopefully there's a lot of margin in it where you guys can kill it. So I would like for them to come talk about this. I also got a great email from Greg, who I don't know if he's here. I haven't seen him today. Is he here and just quiet? But a couple of great ideas that Greg over at Hungerford sent over that we're going to work into one of these really, really soon. So Thanks everybody for coming out. I really appreciate it. You get the 7-figure assessment if you're a 7-figure partner who uses Lifecycle Insights. The best part is if you're a 7-figure partner, Chris pays for your first 5 clients in Lifecycle. So he's been a hell of a partner for us. We do a lot of work with the 7-figure crowd.
We've been around a while together. We shared a couple of beers together, buddy.
It's been a long time. Even at some crazy little Green Bay bar that we found. Was that in Austin?
That was in Austin.
There's actually a Green Bay Packers bar in Austin, which is something I learned from Chris.
Yeah.
But
I'm the prom king at the Packers bar, buddy.
The CSRA is proprietary 7-figure content. If you're a 7-figure partner, you get access to that template. If you're not a 7-figure partner, 1, check it out. 2, the next best replacement for it is something like CIS. Use a CIS 8 template. These are the same best practices, the same stuff we're going to use to solve for the FTC safeguards and everything else. Go back to that documented defendable standard, because God forbid you get hauled into court one day. I say this it's especially funny with Chris on the internet. They're on our call saying some bald guy on the internet told me these were the right questions to ask is not a defensible strategy. Saying I use the Centers for Internet Security standard that is acceptable worldwide is a great and defensible standard when somebody asks you why you
well, and being able to prove it, because the amount of MSPs that tell me, oh, I could win this in court. Okay, here's what I'll tell you. Good luck. Maybe you could win. Good luck fighting against a multi-billion-dollar insurance company to get to that point. Because that's the battle. You have to be able to say, I did this, and we've had clients that have used this whole concept and ran the play, done the CSRA, advised them to do the right risk prevention things, or at least the right risk protection things, I should say. They get a breach, and then the insurance company comes knocking and says, why didn't you do it? Well, I tried. And the client said no.
And here's the major presentation I gave them to prove it, right?
Correct. And
so it's all about defensible positioning today, unfortunately. I think it's a terrible thing to have to say, but it's the real world we live in. So use it as an opportunity, not something to freak you out. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for today. Chris, Cindy, thanks so much for coming out. We'll see you in May in Nashville.
Yes, sir.
For the rest of you, we'll see you here next week. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.